there, Bible buddies. I've got another Bible review for you today, and believe it or not, this one is another long primer. This is actually going to be the very last long primer, at least in the foreseeable future, because I don't think I have any others that I'll be reviewing, and I've saved the best for last. So long primers, when I first started buying long primers, I thought long primers were all exactly the same. I was like, long primer's a long primer. It's just a model name they use, and Oxford maybe, sourced it out or parsed it out to different people, so they're all going to be exactly the same. I'm glad that I did this series of videos, though, because that could not be farther from the truth. We've seen red letter long primers, black letter long primers. We've seen kind of the old hot letter press print, like a more digitized version of the print that's a lot more clean. We've seen long primers with subject headers. We've seen they kind of run the gamut, larger full-size long primers, slightly smaller, more like hand-size or mid-size long primers. There's been a good mix of different things, so it's interesting to see. But again, I've saved the best for last, and this is about the chunkiest long primer you're ever going to see. This thing is a beast. This is a Thomas Nelson long primer. So we've done Collins, and we've done Concordia and Oxford, and I think that's it. I think that's all the long primers that I've done so far. Actually, come to think of it, I have I might have a couple more long primers, but I'm gonna take a break for a little while after this. No more long primers after this for a little bit. But this is definitely a very unique long primer. Again, I always say eBay is an excellent place to look, only because it's kind of like I don't know, like if you ever go like thrifting or if you go like to garage sales, you kind of get everything. And eBay I kind of see is like that, but you can search much quicker. So I've gotten my eBay algorithm down pretty good to be able to cut through a lot of the riffraff. But every once in a while, I just do like a very generic kind of general search, like Thomas Nelson Vintage Bibles or something like that. And I just start scrolling through and seeing what I see and whatever looks interesting. If it's within a reasonable price, this was definitely within a reasonable price. I'm like, sure, let me see. I'll see what it is when I get it. I'll just be surprised. And this was one of those. I really had no idea what it was, if I remember correctly. I don't remember there being like too many photos or it being like very clear. The person wasn't too sure what they had. They just kind of posted a couple quick photos of it. And when I got it, I was very pleasantly surprised. And this will be one that I am holding on to, but definitely, of course, I wanted to share it with you guys. So let's get into it. This is the Teacher's Bible with Concordance, and it still had the box, which I always love. Anytime that I have these vintage Bibles and have the box, I am unsure of the year that it was produced. Sadly, I wish I could give you any sort of information. I couldn't even venture a guess, to be honest with you. 50s or 60s, somewhere in there. But I love when they have these old boxes, the original boxes that come with it, because it's always such an interesting find to have it all kind of together, right? But go ahead and take a look. It is a Teacher's Bible with Concordance. And I imagine they're calling it Teacher's Bible because it does have quite a bit of helps. So we'll look here. Let me scoot this over just a little bit. Oh, it's so large. I'll try and get it in frame as best we can. So there's the end tab. And they'll say Nelson Genuine Leather Thumb Indexed Teacher's Bible with Concordance Dictionary, Questions and Answers, Colored Illustration Aids, Family Records, and Maps. And then it says large clear type pronouncing, and then King James Version. And then there is the model number if you ever need it. It's a Thomas Nelson 2523. On the sides, we just have that wonderful kind of old school kind of floral pattern there. Maybe reminiscent of your grandmother's living room furniture. Or curtains, or prom dress. I guess that pattern was probably used across the board for a great number of things. We're going to open it up now. This sadly is kind of tearing up, so I got to be fairly delicate with it. And we can see that there was one of these things that I absolutely hate. So this would have been connected. This one was probably just loose. It looks like it was just loose. But a lot of times they would have two of these, and they would put them at the bottom here, one at the bottom and one at the top, and they would do that to help train the Yapp. Now, I hate when they did that. I hated how they used to do that, because from these Bibles sitting in the boxes for so long, it would basically permanently like crease the Yapp. And you can kind of see it here on the top of this one. See how it's kind of got that like divot at the top of the Yapp there. So it kind of forced that weird shape because of the weird shape of this little piece. And I just dislike that a lot. Some of the World Bibles that were full Yapp had that, and they have the, like really severe creases in the bottom Yapp portion, and I wish they wouldn't have done that. I would much prefer a Yapp just be straight and you have to train it than come with like these awkward angles and bends, and it looks weird. But that's enough of that. Let's move on past the box. There's certainly enough other stuff to look at. I'm going to clean this off. All right, now that I've cleaned my table to my heart's content, we'll go ahead and take a look at the Bible. Oh man, this is such a neat piece of Bible history, I guess. I love Bibles. I love Bibles. I love God's Word, and I just love seeing all of the unique presentations of it over the years. So let's go ahead and get into this one. We have this wonderful full. I don't know if is it full Yapp. No, it's like a generous Yapp, not quite full Yapp, but it's a very yappy cover. It is like a nice genuine leather, and it does have Holy Bible kind of offset stamped here, and it is debossed, and it has a fairly unique font. Nothing like I've ever seen. It's kind of stylized there, so it's very nice looking. It does have a little perimeter line there. Around the edge, you can see the wonderful grain. It is a double perimeter line, so you have one here kind of close to the edge of the text block, and then one on the very end there. And judging by how harsh this fold is, I would imagine this was probably stored upright over the years. Again, don't store your Bibles upright. Store them laying flat. You'll prevent all this sort of weirdness, these weird bends and folds. And eventually what happens is this leather, if you don't condition it and take care of it, it'll start cracking and breaking much easier here. So just store your Bibles flat and avoid all that. On the spine, we have Holy Bible illustrated. And then we have pronouncing and Nelson. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of burnished spine hubs there. They look very nice. And the perimeter lines continue. On the back, we just have that wonderful grain again. And the perimeter lines with nothing on there. And the leather is fairly grippy. And it's a fairly nice kind of like pebbly, kind of tactile leather grain there. So very, very nicely done. On the inside, we have some really just weird corner work. I don't even know. It's just weird. It's not really, I guess it is pleated, but it's very fine in its execution. There is just kind of a black paper here, and it appears to be a paste down. So really nothing to write home about other than the weird, weird corners. And there's more in the back. And the cover is fairly stiff, but I guess this Bible must have been stored well. It's not stiff in like a bad sense. It just feels like stiff from construction. The leather still feels in excellent shape, excellent condition, despite there being just ever so slightly a small crack there. And the cover, that was the only thing I think that I saw. So, but very nicely done. Kind of reminds me of the old ASVs, my favorite ASV. So let's go ahead and take a look at the head and tail bands there. You have a white head and tail band. And you can see this wonderful gold gilt. Let's try not to scratch it, shall we? Beautifully well done. And it is indexed there with some tabs on the bottom. See the remainder of that gilt. And the tailband, the white tailband. Very nicely done. And it is just a single black ribbon. Nothing of note to write home about. not the greatest of ribbons, just a decent ribbon. But when we open it, we'll take a look at the tabs. Let's go ahead and get into it there. So on the front, we have this lovely presentation page with that beautiful sort of calligraphy P there. It looks excellent, and then nice and filled out, which I don't mind. I know sometimes people, obviously, like, if you're buying like a newer Allen, you don't want people to fill out their names, but I don't mind it so much when it's an older vintage Bible like this. I think it's kind of neat seeing people's information on there. I'm curious if I were to Google this address, if it's still standing, or if it's become like a Papa John's or something like that. We have an illustration there, full color illustration. The page does feel kind of waxy, so it is coated with kind of that old school coating they used to do. And we have our title page there. And I'll go ahead and show you some of it. There's Thomas Nelson's information. It does say long primer 8VO, which is the size, and references for refs for references, and then it does say self-pronouncing. So it's going to have all the sort of little marks and ligatures that we're used to seeing in these older King James Bibles. We do have our epistle dedicatory. You can see a little bit here that there is a little bit of glare to the page, not very much though. It's certainly more evident in the camera than it is in person. Then we have the table of contents there. And a note by the publishers. The key to the signs used in the Bible. A reading plan. We'll check February, like always. And look, I'm guessing this must be a Thomas Nelson thing. The first person who pointed it out, and now I check it on a fairly consistent basis, it was Randy from Bible Buying Guide. He caught it in one of Thomas Nelson's editions, and he thought it was a mistake. But, I mean, this Bible is, 50, 60 years old, and I noticed that they have it here also, the 29 days of February. So I'm assuming that Thomas Nelson, just in general, across the board, does this with the reading plans. Kind of a weird decision, because like Randy pointed out, you only have one year out of every 4, the leap year, that has 29 days in February. So it's kind of weird. So three years out of the 4, you're going to have to play catch up to try and squeeze in that reading elsewhere. Instead of just having 28 days and on your leap year, the 1 year out of the 4, you would have like a free day, which would make more sense. But either way, here we have the first book of Moses called Genesis. Look at that. Oh, let's get you in tight. The first book of Moses called Genesis. We'll take a look at some of the text. Wonderful text. And you can see some of the features right off the bat. We'll take a look also at the tab here. You can see Genesis. Here's a nice little tab, black and gold. Nothing too crazy, fairly standard. All right, now I am not a big fan of tabs, and we can see right out of the gate here, why not? If we take a look at this tab, Genesis, and the cut for the tab, we can see it's really close to that text. And if we actually go to the other side, we can see it cuts into the text. So I'm not a fan of tabs really ever on Bibles. Some of my study Bibles that I purchased have tabs. And like even now, I kind of regret buying tabs because sometimes you'll get this. Not always, but sometimes you get this. And it's kind of aggravating. I don't mind that like there's a section of the page cut out. I mind when it cuts into Google text. I think that's a no-no and a miss. But just me. Obviously, that's not going to happen all the time. And certainly other companies take means to avoid that. I think Holman kind of makes like a more like a square kind of cut when they do their tabs, and it kind of steers clear of that. But obviously this is an older edition. It is what it is. We can see the page is yellow just a little bit. I'll show you a comparison there versus a nice new white page. Has oxidized a bit. Let's flip into it a little bit. Actually, here's perfect. We'll stay right here. So we can see some overcast stitching in the center there. And you see that secondary run of stitches there. That's overcast stitching. That helps to give a little bit more sort of strength to the book block and the binding there. As far as features go, we have our book and associated chapter number at the top center. And you have running headers at the top of each column. They give a little kind of a quick summary of what's going on. You have Pilcrow markers indicating the paragraphs. You do have a double line drop cap, your chapter indicators, and there's also a summary there too for the chapter summary, which is interesting to see. I'll show you a quick zoom in of the center column references. We can see that there's a timeline there. So yeah, definitely a feature-rich edition. Lots of features in this one. Lots of features. Very nicely done. Page numbers in the center at the bottom. And there are illustrations, obviously, Sewn at the beginning, but we'll kind of stumble across some of them from time to time. You can see a little bit of separation here, and this is what I say sometimes, you know, even though this has overcast stitching, you're still going to get some separation. So I'm not really too sure what benefit the overcast stitching has. You know, I in the past, I think I said like I prefer overcast stitching, but as time goes on, I see more and more of these Bibles. I'm like, well, why do they even have it if it's coming apart? And I don't know if that's to help the whole entire book maybe stick to a tab or something in here in the front, or whatever the case is. I'm not privy to that information, so I'm not too sure. Maybe that's something I gotta Google and see what the point of overcast stitching is, where exactly the stitching connects to, and what is it supposed to help. Because I've seen that it doesn't always help. It doesn't always help it stick together. But let's go ahead and flip through. See little illustrations. Here's just an actual picture of where Moses toiled to save the Israelites. It's a modern photo, along with some illustrations on the reverse side. This wonderful red undergold art gilt. Man, that is a beautiful page edge. Look at that. Wonderful coloration there. And you know what? Even though I was just ragging on the tabs a little bit, it does look really nice. These kind of black and gold tabs against this deep red. It looks very nice. And even the yellowing of the page, it just all makes for a very nice kind of presentation there. Let's go. I went too far, but thankfully I have tabs so I can see where I am. We'll go to Psalm 119. I'll show that to you. And we'll take a look at the paper too while we're there. So you can see it does have the Hebrew name, and it does have the little character there at the beginning of each section in Psalm 119. We'll take a look at the paper. Paper is very nice. There's a little bit of show through, but nothing crazy. I don't believe this is Oxford India paper, or India paper, not necessarily Oxford India paper, but I don't think it's India paper. only because even though the show through is very slight, it feels much thicker than India paper does. But I prefer this. It almost feels the equivalent to like a 36 GSM. It's very easy to turn. It's not kind of slick or anything like that. Or sometimes like, so with me, like Oxford India paper gets a little like too thin and too hard to turn. Collins paper that they use, the India paper equivalent, almost gets like a weird kind of chalky feeling to it sometimes. This feels like a very nice paper. So I am not averse to this paper. This is a very nice paper. Granted, it has oxidized, so it has yellowed over the years. It doesn't maintain that sort of ultra bright white the India paper does. We'll take a look at the ribbon here. Whoop. And it is just not even a satin finish, just a normal, no, single-sided satin finish. And it's like a very deep, that's like just a black ribbon. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy to write home about, but a ribbon's better than no ribbon, I suppose. Let's go ahead and get to the intertestamental period here. So we have the end of the prophets. We have a couple little maps here, black and white. We have our family register page. Your births and your marriages. And this paper is a very matte paper and it's very thick, so it'll be excellent to write on. And then a deaths page, your New Testament title page, and the Gospel according to St. Matthew. We'll turn a couple pages and we'll see that it is a black letter text. Let's flip to the end here, because I think there is quite a bit of helps towards the end. And look, I'm going to use these tabs again. You know what? Maybe I should reconsider tabs. Maybe tabs would be like my best friend if I just gave them a chance. All right, so here's the end of Revelation. A blank page. Then we have our aids to Bible studies. And you can see, look how much there is. Look how many helps there are. So again, this is a teacher's edition, and that would be why. I'll let you see the table of contents there for the helps. We'll kind of go through these. Maybe I'll flip through some of these because these seem a little bit more interesting. And I keep saying I'm going to flip through them, so maybe this will be the one. In fact, this will be the one. The Thomas Nelson Long Primer Teacher's Edition. Why not, right? So if you guys are done viewing, by all means, skip ahead or whatever you feel like doing. But I think I'm going to flip through this one and take a look at some of these. If you guys are quick on the pause, feel free to pause. Quick little help. If you guys want to go frame by frame and you're on a desktop, hit the space bar to pause it, and then you have your period and your comma. Those will go one frame at a time. I hope you probably get a better view of it, maybe where my hand's out of the way. Got money, revised question and answers. I love this question and answer section. I see this come up from time to time. I'm kind of chunk through this one. But it's like several hundred questions and answers. And it's all sorts of things, right? What difference was there between meat or food offering and the burnt offering? And then it's got a little answer there. It says the meat offering or flour, oil, and wine was also a sacrifice of thanksgiving. And it says Leviticus. And then it has the Roman numeral for 2. So I'm not sure if that's the second. I would imagine that's the second chapter of Leviticus that it's telling you to refer to. But yeah, a whole bunch of questions and answers there. It's excellent to have that. And it's broken down by book, which is a good way to do it. So if you get done reading, I guess this would be a nice way to have like some reading comprehension. Check and make sure you're awake while reading it. There's the New Testament, questions and answers. And it wraps up there, and then we have the Concise Bible Dictionary. A note by the publishers. And there's a copyright, and this is so sad. There's a copyright here, but it's like it's like kind of erased or something like that. So I can see it says like 19, maybe 60 something, but I can't read it sadly. List of contributors. Key to the signs used in this Bible dictionary. The Concise Bible Dictionary. So go ahead and flip through this. Again, I don't know if this is the same Bible dictionary that was used. Actually, let's check that while I'm here. Who was it produced by? It says copyright Thomas Nelson. Yeah, so I'm curious if this Bible dictionary, because a lot of these illustrations seem familiar, even for Bibles that are pretty modern. You know, the one that comes to mind is the Allen, any edition that ends in C, indicating they have a concordance attached to it. They have these same sorts of drawings and illustrations in that concordance. So I'm curious if, you know, maybe it's borrowed between everybody. I'm just not sure. If you know, please feel free to chime in below. This sort of stuff is super interesting. I love seeing all this. If you guys remember that movie from the 1980s called, oh, what was it? It had a robot. Short Circuit was the movie, and it had a robot named Johnny Five, and Johnny Five could read very, very, very quickly. And at the end, I guess he's trying to get more in touch with his, you know, not so crazy, chaotic robot side. So he he slowed down his reading and read at a normal human pace. But I always thought that it'd be super cool to read that quickly, because he could read a whole book in like a couple seconds. And I have definitely not been that. It takes me a very long time to read a page, a single page. I'm like 5 minutes per page. It takes me a very long time to read. So sometimes I get kind of bogged down in my reading plans, as is the case with my current reading plan. I'm fairly far behind. I'm keeping track of the like the dates. You know, what date we should be on, and like here it is. Here it is, like the end of October, and we're supposed to be like we were supposed to be finishing up this reading at the end of March. So I'm pretty far behind with my Bible reading plan. But yeah, I gotta pick up the pace here. I'm hoping to get done before the end of the year, because I have another Bible that I'm hoping to start reading. I want to read the Bibliotheca, I think it is how you pronounce it, the Bibliotheca Bible. I pre-ordered a copy of those, and I'm excited to get into that translation. I've heard good things about it, so I'm looking to kind of have that one and put it next to my recliner and read that one over the next few months after I get done with I'm reading the NASB 2020 translation. And I'll do maybe I'll do a post wrap up of that, like a post review or post reading review of that one when I get done with it. It's been a good read. Unfortunately, the Bible that I'm using to do the read through is falling apart. And I have not been hard on my Bible. I'm usually not very hard on my Bibles at all. So I'll go ahead and get into it when I do that kind of like that read through wrap up, I guess. Similar to the one that I did with the CSB Reader Bible. I'll do something like that and just kind of show you how the Bible held up through the reading experience. Certainly the leather has been holding up better, but just the overall construction, sad to say, has not been holding up as well. So here we go to the concordance. I hope you guys enjoyed that flip through of that Bible dictionary. Got to see all the illustrations and those sorts of things. Here's the concordance. Oh, and I love this style. And like I said, I always say it reminds me of like a 1950s newspaper. You know, what did I say? War in Berlin last time? Something like that. You know, War in Berlin. Go ahead and kind of chunk through this concordance, because the concordance is all going to look the same. They don't have any sort of illustrations or anything like that in the concordance. So we'll kind of get through it here pretty quick. I would imagine this review is going pretty long. Yeah, it's at like 24 minutes already, so let's hurry it up. Combined concordance. There we go. Getting to the end. There's whoa. So there's the end of the concordance. And then we have the index to the Nelson's Bible Atlas. Oh man, there's a ton of places marked. Look at that. A ton, just an absolute ton of places mapped out for you. Then you have one blank page, and then we have our maps. Oh, they do a pretty decent job. So they're not going too hard on the details. They have a little bit of details, but the text is thick enough to where it's not problematic to read. I mean, you'll have to take a second to kind of find some stuff. But it's certainly not as bad as some of the other ones we've been seeing. Not as good as those Collins ones that we just saw in the last one that I reviewed, but not bad by any stretch. This one, maybe not so much. Here, I'll show you guys. See, sometimes they just get so crazy with these sort of like terrain details that it just becomes like a nuisance to read. but it's okay. It's okay. We'll let it slide. This map is only, 60 years old or something like that. So here we have a little code. This is ADJ 2523. So if you're looking for your Thomas Nelson 2523, this is what it's going to be. Man, what an excellent Bible. It's just a beautiful Bible. Yeah, don't let anybody fool you. If they ever say, oh, old Bibles weren't put together nicely or whatever, they didn't have any premium versions of older Bibles. No, they definitely did. This is definitely a premium version. So let me go ahead and get you guys a measurement. I'll do it full Yapp, fully extended Yapp. Comes in right at 10 inches tall. And, it's going to be kind of hard to judge how wide it is. Right about 7 inches wide. That's a wide one. Okay, and thickness, mamma mia. Look at this. Look at this. There we go. Ooh, it is over 2 inches thick. It's like 2 1/16 of an inch thick. It's a very chunky Bible. In fact, let's compare it to that Collins. We'll do the Oxford Long Primer here. Yeah, so let's compare Oxford Long Primer to Thomas Nelson Long Primer. You guys can see the difference. It was laughable, is it not? That is quite the difference. Obviously, the Oxford Long Primer is on top there, and the Thomas Nelson is on the bottom. And there is a substantial difference in thickness there. Again, the Oxford uses their India paper, which is substantially thinner, albeit much more fussy than the Thomas Nelson paper that they used. But definitely, definitely a good size comparison there between the two if you're looking at getting a Thomas Nelson long primer. Bible buddies, certainly I appreciate you guys sticking around through all these long primers. I do think I have a couple newer long primers that I will get to at some point. So the order of operations for me is basically I haven't gone into too much detail in my personal life. So we move fairly regularly. So my goal is to get through all of the Bibles that I don't plan on keeping before we move, so I don't have to move them again because I already had to move them once and it was quite a bear. So I'm going to try and get through all the Bibles that I don't plan on keeping, review those first, and then sell them to whoever would enjoy them more than me. Move those along. And then at that point, once I'm done reviewing all the Bibles that I don't plan on keeping, then I will review the Bibles that I plan on keeping. And I have quite a few Bibles that I plan on keeping. It's mostly like odd translations. I don't have like every translation out there. I think there's something like 1,200 or 1,300 English translations of the Bible. I don't have anywhere near that, not even close. But I have like a lot of the stuff that's been produced more recently, modern times translations. But that kind of stuff is going to be later. So all the vintage stuff first. And even then, not even all the vintage stuff, because some of the vintage stuff, not a good bit of the vintage stuff. Some of the vintage stuff I am going to keep because I do like vintage Bibles. That's the thing that started me off on this whole great journey. So some of them I'm going to keep, but I want to get through the ones that I'm going to sell first, and then start reviewing all the other ones. So I tend to go through like chunks, and I had a lot of long primers, and I want to part ways with a lot of these long primers. So a lot of these long primers are going to go up for sale. And then the next big batch that I have is the Pica editions. I think I have like 10 Pica Bibles, and I'll try and do the same thing. I'll try and space them out so you guys aren't inundated with Pica reviews. And then I have like just a ton of Oxford Bibles in general. And I have like literally every Oxford Bible from the very smallest to the very largest. And the smallest Oxford Bible is about the size of maybe like two of my fingers, I think, like that big. And then the largest Oxford Bible that I have takes up like almost this whole table. So it'll be a treat trying to figure out how to do that review. But Bible buddies, this has gone on long enough. What am I? I'm trying to see the time on my camera. Oh, like a 30-minute review. Excellent. You're right. That'll be fun to edit. Bible buddies, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to leave them down below. Otherwise, Bible buddies, until next time, bye.